It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague in the danger zone in Rainford, to Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
In the immortal words of Bon Jovi, whoa, we're halfway there.
Living on a prayer. Ironic, choosing New Jersey as two of the informed teams in the NFL. Big up in New Jersey. Because, you know, they're not in New York and that. Even though they got New York in their name.
They're lies.
Yeah, they are. They are, Neil. They are. Big show this week. Not that big, but we're going to talk about a load of stuff. And then we're going to fly to Munich and get drunk. Facts. Main's events this week. I've asked the question of what's next. For a number of people and teams, what would you do? Where do you think they'll go? Then we're going to go straight fantasy. Darlings, losers, and fantasy predictions bound to go wrong. Decent week last week for Neil. Decent in fantasy, darlings and losers. Terrible in his prediction, bound to go wrong, man. Okay, but we'll get onto that when we get onto it. Without further ado, let us get on with the show. And let's get on to the main event.
Time now for the main event.
So, Neil, what I was thinking was, there's a number of crossroads positions for a number of people, players, teams. And I thought what we'd look at is those particular people or teams and see what we would do next, or what is next on the horizon for them. I'm going to start somewhere close to home, Neil. I'm going to start with Jalen Hurts. His team are 8-0?
Mm-hmm.
Soon to be 9-0 as Monday Night Football against the Nandas, who may have enough lawsuits that they're not able to play a game. We shall soon find out. Playing, I'm going to say okay. I think if you were like talking head guy on ESPN or FS1, you'd be saying he's an MVP candidate. You get under the numbers. It's been a bit okay in the past few weeks. The question on the Jalen Hurts thing in the terms of what next sounds a bit ridiculous, but this guy's staring a lot of money in the face, and the question is what happens next for him.
Someone whose opinions we respect greatly when it comes to film breakdown and whatnot is Greg Cosell. And he said that the way Jalen Hurts has been playing at the moment is he's executing the offense. As I've said in the past many times, why do heroes emerge? Because everything's collapsed and everything's gone wrong. The way the offense is playing at the moment through Jalen Hurts operating as a point guard, there is no collapse, there is no crises. He's executing the offense. For that, he should be commended.
Yes.
He's not having to rush 15 times a game. He's not having to throw the ball 50 times a game. He's executing the offense at a very high level. He has shown considerable growth from last year. I mean, the jump he made from year 1 to year 2 was, okay, you've done better. The jump from year 2 to year 3 was incredible. The odds are now that he will get a long-term extension. I wonder, though, whether the Eagles, having been burnt before with long-term extensions, and I don't just mean Carson Wentz, I mean this happened with Michael Vick as well, if we go back to 2011, they might just say, do you know what, we'll make him an offer at the end of this season that probably won't be, it won't be table-setting money. It'll be competitive. The Eagles like to extend early. They basically like to buy into the players feeling grateful that the team that's brought them on is is taking the chance on them. So I wonder that they'll try and do that, but then they may accept that they're going to have to go down they might go down the franchise tag route at the end of the 2023 season. So I would be stunned if Jalen Hurts wasn't the starting quarterback in 2024. I just don't know what deal he'll be playing under at that time.
It's a really interesting one, right? Because there's two things at play here. I think, first of all, I don't think anyone necessarily saw Jalen Hurts as a starting quarterback in the NFL 3 years ago, let's say. What I would also say is every single year since he was at Alabama, Jalen Hurts has got better as a quarterback. And also, he seems like someone who people rally towards and play around, which shouldn't be underestimated in these type of situations. I just sent you a TikTok where he's talking with the Kelseys, who have a podcast, which I haven't listened to, but looks epic just on the clips. I may just watch the clips because it does look cool, and they're two of the coolest men on the planet, and they're talking to Jalen Hurts, right? And he seems like a leader of men. I don't really like that phrase, but he seems like a quarterback who commands respect. But there's a quarterback who demands respect, and then there's paying someone going market rate of franchise quarterback, which is, 40 million plus a year, based on one good year, I guess we'd say. Maybe, 1.5. It's always difficult, and this is how it works, and I think we'll come on to Lamar later, is in terms of people always remember the bad game, especially if it's in the most high profile, and that taste from the wild card game is going to be tough for some people to get rid of. Especially if, like, say, for example, the Eagles don't win the Super Bowl, which I don't think we think they're going to. They might do. I mean, but it's one of them.
Nah.
No, you're going to say that, of course. Excellent, reverse jinx, loving your work. But it is one of them where I think you do look at it and think there's a decision to be made. I do wonder if Howie tries to delay said decision as long as possible. But I think that Jalen Hurts has made himself a starting quarterback in the NFL, and also rich, and good on him.
Can't be understated as well, especially at that level, how important continuity can be. This is the first time in 7 years, through high school, through college, to the NFL, that he's gone back to back in the same system. So the same playbook, the same terminology, and he's showing a level of comfort that he's never been allowed to, because he's always been learning on the job, and then the next year he's learning on the job again.
Yeah. So
it can't be understated.
And it regularly is. And I always find, it's very rarely talked about how many, especially when it seems to be around rookies and early starters, how many times their head coach, offensive coordinator changes, and that's not something that you want to talk about. Let's move on to the next one. Who's a quarterback or a coach who have been together for a couple of years now, and have had some success, but don't seem to be friends. And I think the franchise needs to make a decision on what next, and that what next is Kyler and Cliff in Arizona. It is not going well. There seems to be a complete disengagement between the two of them. The best way I would describe that is most coaches would hang their hat on their first 15 to 20 plays in a game. Nobody is worse in the NFL than the Arizona Cardinals in the first quarter. That can't be good. And that suggests that the only time they are good is when they're flying by the seat of their pants, i.e. playing the Kyler Murray offense rather than the Cliff Kingsbury. I assume one of these people is in a got-to-go situation. My assumption is it's Cliff. Where do you go?
Well, if you get rid of Murray, then the financial cost is accelerated and hampers your ability to build a team next year. If you get rid of Cliff, that's your money, do what you want with it. You still have to pay it, but it's not going to hurt. There's no salary cap for coaches. I will say this about Kyler Murray. I'll say two things, actually, about Kyler Murray. One, if you're getting paid that much money, elevate. Play better. Make the players around you better. And also, about Kyler Murray as well, and again, this is another criticism, he has, up there with Aaron Rodgers, the worst body language of any quarterback in the NFL today. It's not that he comes off looking disappointed or angry or confused about a play. He just looks moody. And as we talked before about a quarterback who people gravitate towards because he gives off what BLG, Bleeding Green, calls big winner energy. Kyler don't. Kyler literally is off. He's moody. He's shouting at his coach, who's probably, let's be honest, an arsehole.
And let's be honest, probably completely out of his depth.
Yeah, but you just cannot behave like that. When, let's be honest, mate, see, you're getting paid an awful lot of money. You've got no skins on the wall here. You haven't earned the right to be that much of a prick to your teammates and for everyone to see. You just haven't.
I think as well, you kind of hit the nail on the head on this kind of resting bitch face. What should be noted on Kyler, which was kind of noted a lot, is he never lost anywhere, ever. Tremendously talented, multi-sport, drafted in 2 different sports, never lost. And started losing. Guess what? Kyler Murray doesn't like losing. And not that these are elite athletes, none of them like losing, but sometimes you need to accept it. And it seems like he hasn't. If I am the Bidwells, there's only one phone call I'm making, and that's to Sean Payton. And I'm saying, what does it cost to get you here? Let's be honest. It's not somewhere... I think like we have like kind of UK bias on these type of things. And we think, people want to go to New York or whatever. Like, Arizona's like rich... Golfers who are the rich of the rich, who don't like paying taxes, live in 2 places. They live in Florida or they live in Arizona. Sean Payton sounds like someone who likes a lot of money and sunshine all the time. Now, is there better places for him to go? Probably. We always talk about Dallas in this situation. But the Bidwells don't get involved in day-to-day, radio interviews in Arizona. So maybe you'd quite like everyone to leave you alone and get on with your job. And have an elite quarterback to do that, and Kyler is that.
Of course, Sean Payton has experience of working with a quarterback who is below the average height for a starting quarterback. There's a line from Dennis Farina, I always forget the name of the film, but he's admonishing one of his underlings, and the line goes, if you don't start getting more personally involved in your work, I'm going to stab you through the heart with a pencil. I think that the Cardinals fan base would probably like the Bidwells to start doing that. Although, obviously, it's a lot harder for them to get close to stab him with a pencil. Not that I'm advocating that in any stretch. But the crossroads when this team meets it, they have to pick Kyler Murray. Because, as I say, they can spaff the money up the wall and say goodbye to Cliff after signing him to an extension that was the stupidest thing they possibly could have done. But trying to get rid of Kyler is going to hamper them from being competitive again. And for a few years down the line. And it makes them unattractive as a coaching option because, where's my quarterback? No.
Let's move on. Let's go team, Neil. Team in the headlines this week, the Indianapolis Colts, who went from the bizarre to the ridiculous in like 3 easy steps. There's 2 things I'll say on this. One, it's wild that Jeff Saturday is now their head coach. And it's also not the wildest thing an Irsay's done, as I was listening to a story where Jim Irsay's dad, Bob Irsay, while in Baltimore, when Howard Schellenberger was the head coach, came down at half-time and told him to change the quarterback. He didn't. And then he then fired him before he told any. He basically held a press conference after the game and fired Howard for said thing, got into a fight with him, and then hired the GM as his coach, and the GM had never coached apart from at high school. Oh wait, that's exactly like the Jeff Saturday thing.
At least the GM was in the building. The problem is that a few weeks ago, the free footballing world were rising to the banner of Jim Irsay because he was basically speaking against Daniel Snyder, which we all appreciated. I think he got a bit too drunk on the power and the popularity, and then decided, well, I'm out of the closet that Chris Ball had locked me in, and now I can see the limelight again. So time for me to start taking a personal interest in my work. And he's basically, they used to say there was a question that Gene Roddenberry got asked. It was like, how fast can the Starship Enterprise really go? Because you cover all these distances. And his answer was, it travels at the speed of plot.
Correct.
The answer being, it goes as fast as we need it to go for the episode. The speed of which this has gone from peculiar to comic tragedy is absolutely mind-numbing. And as anyone will tell you, it's never a good sign if you're being accused of going full Steinbrenner. Even I know that.
It's amazing, right? And there's a multitude of issues with the Jeff Saturday hire. He seems like a really nice guy, right? I don't know if you've seen the interview. I don't know if you've seen the press conference. Let's be honest, his mate rang him up and said, "Can you do me a favor? Can you do me a solid for 9 weeks? Because I rang Peyton and he wouldn't take my call." So he did. There's a multitude of issues related to that, of which we all know. Most of them revolve around nepotism and race. But this is where we are. I guess, for me, does Jim Irsay believe this will save his season? Or is this Jim Irsay saying, it won't save my season, but I like Jeff Saturday, and guess what? I am going to go to the well for the effing third time and get myself an elite quarterback through the draft by the fact that I have been really bad at my job 3 different times.
This is one of the most full-throated commitment to the tank that I've ever seen. Because Saturday's in a lose-lose scenario. If he keeps, if he keeps them up, I was going Shearer at Newcastle then.
I was going to say, right.
Imagine if he wins 5 games, plays them completely out of contention for that first overall pick. Irsay's going to be fuming, and he's not going to hire him. They lose from here on out. They get the first overall pick. Irsay's going to thank him for his service and fire him. Saturday, has probably got a gig in the media to go back to.
Well, he's working for ESPN, and they all seem from the things I've listened to like him. The NFL Network, on the other hand, don't. I assume they don't like him because he got the job, because there was a bit of NFL Network, ESPN, head-to-head battle, which is always interesting. I always love it. I always love internal drama. But carry on.
Beef,
yeah.
The other network beef.
Correct.
It's just a baffling situation, and I say the only thing I can compare it to is Shearer at Newcastle. Let's get a hero in for the last few weeks of the season, see what he can do. The thing that Shearer did that Saturday might well consider, and that other people throughout history would tell us as never a good idea to coach where you've played, is at the end of the season, once the interim tag is being discussed, say, "Thank you very much for Thursday. I've really enjoyed my time. Go bye-bye now."
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. A team that's never tanked, or hasn't tanked in 16 years, if not more, is the New Orleans Saints. They have been stealing from Peter to pay Paul for as long as I can remember. They are the walking embodiment of the cap isn't real. But guess what? The cap must be real, because their roster gets considerably worse every single year. And this year, they're not saved by an excellent coach in Sean Payton. Is this the year where they just actually do blow it all up?
I think they have to, but the problem they've got is they went into this season with a mindset that they were still a competing organisation, and that's why they made the moves they did in the off-season. They basically got conned twice by Howie Roseman. No shame in that. Howie does that for a pastime.
He does.
But they traded an absolute boatload for Chris Olave. Was he, is Chris Olave a good player? Absolutely. Is he going to be a good weapon for whoever their next quarterback is? Yep, and for years to come. But was he there? This is what we need. He can elevate the talent around him and take us to the Super Bowl. We will not need the draft pick. We will not need a first-round pick in 2023. No, I don't think he was. And also the idea of we don't really fancy that CJGJ So let's just ship him off. What, Howie, what, you going to give us a ham sandwich? Yeah, that's fine. They're in trouble because, see, the worse they play, the better that draft pick becomes. And the Eagles don't have to spend it on the quarterback the Saints desperately need. But of course, the New Orleans Saints don't draft quarterbacks in the first round. As you'll know, they have not done so since 1971. But they need it. Winston's not the answer. Dalton's certainly not the answer. Well, he is, but I just don't like the question. And there's something about the medical staff and this team that these players are picking up injuries that linger and linger and linger. And eventually you're paying top-tier money to players who are now past their best, and you can't get out of it for another 2 years. Whole thing's a mess. But as you say, it's been coming.
You look now, and there's a number of players who Philadelphia can have their pick of, which makes them considerably better, which really the New Orleans Saints should be doing with that, which right now is a top 10 pick, right, Neil? I'm sure you're keeping score on that one. They have to. We've been saying for a couple of years they have to blow this up. They haven't, but I think they have to now. This is just not going to work. I don't know what they're achieving, because even if this is where I think NFL teams sometimes struggle, right, is being a wildcard team or just winning the NFC South is not, I don't think, considered good enough to win the Super Bowl. It happens from time to time that a wildcard team wins the Super Bowl, but yeah, not with the roster on this talent. I just don't think it's going to work.
Breaking news, and touching on a subject that we never touch on. Is it big news that the Nets have released Kyrie Irving?
Yeah.
Cool. Thought so.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's good news for the world of non-conspiracy theory, which we all should be party to. Neil, the Denver Broncos, who did go all in, and in theory had a logical position towards it, that they got a quarterback to do so. Issue: quarterback stinks. Offense stinks. Defense really good. Like, really good. Is this just a situation for what next is? Fire head coach, find coach who can manage ailing and aging quarterback?
Would be, if ailing and injured quarterback had showed any capacity to
ever be coached in his entire life.
Yeah, to play in a system that wasn't of his own design. You say this for Russell Wilson on the field. As I said before, Aaron Rodgers' body language at the moment is terrible. He looks like he is an unwilling participant in his own offense. Wilson at least is trying. You can tell he wants to be great. I think there's no bigger driver in Russell Wilson's life than to be great and probably be liked at the same time. You're failing. But it's just, the whole thing stinks. The offense isn't good. The talent around him is vastly overrated. I mean, it says something that, we're all terribly excited about a mid-round tight end they drafted who was never a full-time player in college, but he's averaging 12.1 PPR points per game after 3 games. We're supposed to be excited by this. This team drafted an athletic freak in Albert O and spent a first-round draft pick on Noah Fant. But, actually, we should have just gone for this approach all the time. Okay, great. You just wonder, as weird as it sounds, how big an impact Tim Patrick's injury probably had on this team.
Straight swap, Aaron Rodgers. Keep your head coach, Aaron Rodgers, for Russell Wilson, who says no.
I'll run the single wing.
Who says no?
I don't think. I think Rodgers is poison. I think he's an absolute toxic. I don't want him anywhere near any team.
What I would like to highlight to you now is, I don't disagree with you in any way, shape or form, by the way. Over the past decade, none of the Seattle Seahawks ever came back from the team that won the Super Bowl. None of them. We're never there. Not one of them. Not Richard Sherman, not Beast, not any of them. And we all thought, why did we think that was? Because they'd all picked a fight with Pete Carroll, lost and didn't like him. Guess what? Week 1, they were all there. Week 2, all there. Week 3, all there. Do you know what? We can say whatever we can. We know for a fact that Aaron Rodgers is toxic. We are starting to find out that everybody hates Russell Wilson. Now, we can look from the outside looking in. He looks a bit false. He looks a bit like one of them lads who you're like, yeah, but we're not going to be close friends. But they proper hate him. Like, well hate him. So, if you're Denver, at least you'd have a quarterback who everyone hates, who, kind of knows the offense that the guy who's in charge runs. And, at least if you're Green Bay, you've got a guy who at least pretends to smile and pretends to be happy and pretends to get everybody on board, unlike the malcontent who keeps on saying everybody's job should be at risk apart from his.
Did you see what Russell Wilson said about Geno?
Let's ride. I assume he said.
It was about Geno, not about Geno. He said that he won an awful lot of games for Seattle without needing a wristband with the plays on it. That's because Geno reads them.
Well, did you hear Pete's response? Pete was like, "We always wanted people to do that, but they never did."
By people, Pete, we mean.
But by people, we mean the only person who ever played quarterback for you for the past decade, Pete. You may as well just go, that guy over there in the Denver top.
To quote Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder, what do you mean, you people?
To the victors go the spoils, and right now, Pistol Pete is absolutely dominating the victory. He's won in that Punch-Out on the Nintendo and is dancing with his gloves in the air. What a hero. Final one, Neil. What's next for Lamar Jackson? Does he go down the Kirk Cousins route, or is someone actually going to pay him a long-term contract?
They're going to have to pay him because they've not done a particularly good job of putting talent in around him, as if to say, well, the next guy can just do it with these pieces if you can't. No, they can't, because you keep drafting injured players. Who would have thought, by the way, who could have possibly predicted, who could have foreseen that in his first game with the Ravens, the 35-year-old Deshaun Jackson would pull his hamstring? Who could have seen that coming apart from everyone? This team, there's one thing this team has done well over the years. It is acquire compensatory draft picks. It is draft and develop defensive talent. And it has spectacularly failed to draft wide receivers every single time. Rashad Bateman might be incredibly talented, but he's not healthy and hasn't been. This isn't just this thing. This was last year. Last year it was, look how well he played when he was healthy. This year it's, look how well he was playing when he was healthy. What are you training? What are you practicing on? The car park? What's going on here? Why do these players keep getting injured and staying injured? And why? How do you think you can get away with playing fast and loose with them and expect Lamar Jackson to elevate to such an extent that you have to pay him because he can just say, "I've done it now."
In the past 10 years, this is the only team that has had a double-digit lead in every one of its first 8 games. And I am not sure, with the exception of Mark Andrews, anybody else other than Lamar Jackson on the offense is any good.
No.
And if they are good, they are what you would describe as oft injured. The franchise is really well run, so that would give me pause if I was Lamar Jackson to leave, because I love money, but do I want to love money for a joke of a franchise, which would be possibility, right? But the Kirk Cousins route has proven to work here. If he does double bubble 40 million for the... I think this is where it gets a bit interesting, right? This is not 20, 30 years ago. What happens if he gets injured? Lamar Jackson will have earned $40 million that year. That's generational wealth. Okay, so it's 250 million quid. I'm not ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But maybe you do gamble on yourself. Maybe you do say, well, I'd like money. Or do you go Tom Brady and go, I'd like money, but how about you go and get, I don't know, I'm picking crap team. Go and get me Terry McLaurin. Go and do that, and I'll take 200 million rather than 250 million. Do you know what I mean? Do something to make this team better.
The thing that I would say as well, when it comes to the franchise tag and betting on themselves, how many quarterbacks seriously receive or incur season-ending injuries anymore? Compared to like running backs or linemen or wide receivers or defensive players, quarterbacks are so protected that, I mean, Tom Brady missed a full season. Yeah, that was 2008. Peyton Manning had to miss a season because of neck surgery. That was 2011. You know, Teddy Bridgewater, obviously a devastating knee injury that happened. So we're talking like 3 players there. This is not, to say it's betting on themselves at that position, it's not as big a gamble as it would be for, like, when Le'Veon Bell didn't sign his tag. That was a stupid thing to do then, and it's shown to be a stupid thing to do. Quarterbacks will always do it because the odds of them getting hurt, and especially Lamar Jackson has shown he has a preternatural ability to avoid taking the big hit.
Correct.
He has a wonderful sense of self-preservation. He still makes the play and wants to get as many yards as possible, but he does know, no, I'm out of bounds now, or slide, which he doesn't do that often because he doesn't have to, because he goes out of bounds instead.
Put it this way, Neil, he's my dynasty quarterback in our dynasty league of record, and I'd pay him. Like, the last 2 years he's got me to the playoffs, and this year I'm 6-3 and hoping to do the same again. And most of that is down to Lamar. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think they care.
No. Let's move on. Let's get on to the fancy portion and start with Fancy Darling.
Hello, darling.
Last week, 1-1. Neil said, do you know what you should do, everybody? Pick Justin Fields. Oh, yeah, you should pick Justin Fields. Because Justin Fields went from, is this player a franchise quarterback, to, oh, look, here's the person everyone's going to pick in fancy drafts next season. 42.72 points, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 178 yards on the ground with 1 score. And he did what can only be described as a better version of the Robert Griffin III run against Minnesota for Washington. Unbelievable 60-yard run against the Miami Dolphins defense.
In 1 week, he went from, I'll have her home by 10 to, now she calls me daddy.
Correct. Unfortunately, Neil also picked the Cincinnati Bengals. Garbage time sucks. Get garbage time out of my face. Defense and special teams 13, 6 points. They were 35-0 up, and then, oh, well, we've won. Yeah, but Neil hasn't won his Fancy Darling stats, so I don't like it. Neil, let's get on. Who have you got this week? Number 1, please.
Number 1 this week, quarterback, is going to be Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy is dull from a fancy point of view. We don't like
pretty though, isn't he? He's pretty,
oh God, he's one handsome mother. He's not going to, wow. He's never going to throw for 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, but he's solid. And, we're probably at a stage of the season where all we really need is solid if we have to be picking a quarterback on a weekly basis. So, in the last 4 weeks, I think he's thrown multiple touchdowns in every game, and he's averaging 21 fantasy points per game. He's playing the Chargers, which is not a great matchup on paper, but the one thing we can bank on the Chargers is someone's probably going to get injured between now and then.
Was there not a better, more comedic game than Chargers against Falcons last week, as both teams got in positions to win and then tried desperately to lose?
Yeah, chargering and falconing intensified. So I think Garoppolo is a safe option. He's just not a terribly exciting one.
Second pick, Neil.
Second pick, I'm going defense again. It may look and it may feel like I'm bullying, because I am. Any team who plays against the Indianapolis Colts between now and the end of the season, you want to start their defense. The Colts lead the league in interceptions thrown. They lead the league in fumbles. They lead the league in fumbles lost. They lead the league in sacks taken. The Raiders' defense is not very good, as current head coach Jeff Saturday pointed out last week. But all you need to do is play against the Colts. They'll beat themselves, and your team gets to get the credit for it in fantasy. So Raiders defense for me.
Amazing. Let's get on with Fancy Loser.
I'd just like to quickly dispute your claim about the Bengals.
Have I done it wrong?
I have them scoring 8 points, which would make them 7th.
Ooh, I like this game. It's a good game. Let's go to the tape.
This is great audio while you prove me right.
No, 13th, 6.0.
Well, I'm going on ESPN score.
I'm going on Fancy Pros.
Well, you shouldn't.
What? Talk me through what they did then. This is now even better audio.
Cincinnati Bengals, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery, only 21 points allowed. That's 8 points in ESPN scoring.
Okay, let's take this offline. I'm just picking the same way I've done it for every single week. So I've been consistent. It sounds like you're picking random scoring systems that suit your agenda.
Every fantasy point I make, all the points I make, is based on ESPN scoring.
Oh, now he says that, right? Okay.
And you should, as the ESPN water carrier of this too, you should be respecting that.
Okay, fair enough. Fancy loser, you won this week. Can we agree you won? Because you picked Allen Robinson, who got 3 catches for 24 yards. He stinks. Wide receiver 42. Couldn't have been more wrong on me thinking he was good. Rams also stink. Also, stop defenses of the world. Stop with the let's not get beat deep at the end of games. Well, okay, just let him walk down the field then. Just let him walk down the field. Don't know if you know, Tom Brady's been doing this a while. Anyway, Neil, who's the pick this week?
The Rams might also be without Matthew Stafford this week. So if you thought last week was bad, it could get even worse. The loser this week, I'm going to go bold. Because the matchup doesn't suggest to me that he's going to have the day he has been having. But I'm going to say that Travis Kelce will not be a tight end 1 this week. Now, he has finished lower than tight end 3 once all season. But the Jags do not give up a lot of fancy points to tight ends. Fast, aggressive, speedy linebacker play. That's what they've got. Plus, I just think the Chiefs can beat them in a number of other ways, so we don't need Kelce to be the star. But I think he may disappoint people this week. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going bold.
Love it, Neil, love it. We're not arguing with that, and we'll make sure we get the points triple checked. Let's get on with fantasy predictions. Bound to go wrong. Last week, 0-2. I picked Justin Jefferson to be wide receiver 1 and get over 150 yards. He was wide receiver 4. He got 25.5.7 for 115 and a touchdown. That's a loss though. Doesn't matter. Neil picked Evan Ingram to be tight end 1. He wasn't. He got 1.8 points in a loss.
He was hurt.
He was hurt, and his team won. So yeah, there we go. This week, Neil, if Travis Kelce isn't going to be tight end 1, that means there's a space open, and I believe that space is going to be filled by Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers. No Chase Claypool, a couple of other injuries, and even when Claypool was there, Pat was getting a lot of play. Now, you could say, but Mainz, you retweeted that Warren Sharp told us that the longest touchdown of the Pittsburgh Steelers' career of season was 8 flipping yards. I did say that, but guess what? Most 8-yard throws thrown by Kenny Pickett will probably go to Pat Freiermuth. So in this, I am going to pick offer by the Pittsburgh Steelers to probably still get beat, but for Pat Freiermuth to be tight end 1. Neil, what's your pick?
200 yards rushing, at least 50 yards receiving, and multiple touchdowns for this week's RB1, Saquon Barkley.
Who's Saquon playing this week, Neil?
The Houston Texans defense.
Beautiful.
This may not be a bold decision. That's why I'm not saying Saquon to be RB1. So it is he has to be RB1 and he has to hit those yardage and touchdown parameters as well. Otherwise, I do not accept it as a win.
I love it. I love it. Neil, that's it for this week's show. We are going to Munich, but before we're back, where can people catch you?
Find me on Twitter at @NNutton13. Read my stuff at Rotoviz, at Numberfire, at Player Profiler. See the matchups that I write for the Jaguars and the Chargers on 4-4 Football. And the latest edition of the Gridiron magazine is still available in all good newsagents.
And even bad ones. I am at Mainz7. Come by me at waxing_lyrical. I did the touchdown review this week. Had George Somerville talking SEC, Callum, Thomas and Joe talking NFL. Great stuff. Got some picks. I'm still in the lead, but I was 0-2 last week, so I need a big week this week. That's it from us. If you want us, tweet us. We'll be in Hofbrauhaus from Saturday through to Monday morning. Hope to see you there. If not, we'll see you back here next week. These top guys are out.